Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about modern vampire stories. Sparkly vampires. Maybe I'm old school, but I think when a vampire is exposed to sunlight, that motherfucker should burst into flames, let the right one in style. Or, at least smoke a little, maybe with an accompanying sizzling sound effect. Anything but sparkle. What the fuck is that? Now, the Twilight franchise is specifically to blame for this one, but sparkly vampires are really just the latest example of an overall ongoing trend of modern writers fucking with established vampire traits for no other reason than just to change shit. It improves nothing, and more often than not it results in lame, stupid vampires who are about as interesting to watch as loading the dishwasher. Self-cleaning vampires. Blame Buffy the Vampire Slayer for this shit. Buffy was a great show, and Angel was an even better one, but they both featured these vampires and other lumpy-faced Star Trek-style monsters that were not only ridiculously easy to kill, but also just went poof into a cloud of dust at the first sting of the wooden stake. Come on, no agonizing death? Christopher Lee always brought the agonizing death. Peter Cushing would pull down the drapes and let the sun in, or stab him in the chest with the stake, and Christopher Lee would grab it and go, and there was always an open window somewhere nearby, and the wind would blow in, and the dust would start to blow away as the closing credits began to roll. See, back in the old days, that's all we needed. We didn't need fancy CGI special effects or sexy vampire slayers. All we needed was one old English guy stabbing another old English guy in the chest with a stick. Ninja vampires. How come all the new vampires seem to know karate? Is there something in the bite that gives them not only immortality and a craving for blood, but the fighting skills of Bruce Lee on PCP? Okay, I'm starting to sound like Andy Rooney. Mopey vampires. Fuck you, Anne Rice. This one's all your fault. Look, I have nothing against three-dimensional characters. There's nothing wrong with a vampire story that explores the loss of humanity or the conflict of having to kill in order to live, or the ennui that sets in after being alive for thousands and thousands of years. In fact, 2 of the greatest vampire films ever made, Let the Right One In and Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, explore these themes very compellingly. But come on, Louis from Interview with the Vampire, Edward from Twilight, why do so many of the modern vampire heroes have to be such fucking buzzkills? Okay, you have to sleep during the day and kill other people for food. It's not the ideal situation. I get it, but immortality, eternal youth, superpowers, do these things count for nothing? A little perspective, fellas. And that glowering mope from Twilight is the worst of the lot. Not only does he get all the typical advantages of being a vampire, he also gets to go out during the day, and he has a girlfriend. What the fuck is he so depressed about? Rationalized vampires. Richard Matheson's classic novella, I Am Legend, is one of my favorite vampire stories, and it's obviously had a profound influence on the present generation of horror writers and filmmakers, but not always for the best. Matheson's story includes a detailed but not very interesting scientific explanation of its vampires. And since then, modern writers have attempted to create their own scientifically plausible vampires, depicting vampirism as literally a virus transmitted from host to host, for instance, or the aversion to the sun, a severe allergic reaction, things of this nature. I'm all for scientifically explaining stuff. In fact, I think it's the best way to explain and understand anything. But I'm willing to tolerate the supernatural in my fiction, and crafting a scientific explanation for vampires makes about as much sense as coming up with a supernatural explanation for headaches. There's stories about vampires. They're figures of myth and legend. I don't expect them to be plausible. I don't want them to be plausible. I want them to be evil, and preferably English, or English pretending to be Romanian. I would find either acceptable. The hardest part is only picking 5. See you next time.